Um,
I got the tail.
I guess I should add that to the list too, huh?
If you want to make a tail, just give it to Chris Hansen.
Oh, that was a great video, wasn't it? Wasn't that a great presentation? Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
He donated the tail, that same tail I brought back from OKR for UMake last year. And I photocopied the instructions with the kit and everything on how to make it. And I photocopied that. And I've made some, but not using his exact same technique. And having seen him do that, it's pretty interesting. I just did squares and alternated them and cut it out. But him using the hot cutting was quite nice. That was a well done video.
I think I'd start with bigger pieces. My first one.
I did, I think 12 or 18-inch blocks with 3 stripes, and then I did horizontal, vertical, and sewed those all together, and then did the 45s.
Oh, okay.
That turned out well, but his looked quite unique.
So how are you, Daryl?
I am hanging in there. Work has been keeping me busy, that's for sure, but definitely looking forward to getting out. I almost skipped out on a lot of the classes today and headed out to the beach because it was almost perfect weather out there for flying today.
It is so windy here. Oh my gosh. I don't know what it's gusting to.
Do you have your auction stuff in hand, Daryl?
Oh yeah.
Those are some nice ones.
Yeah, I got the Barbara Meyer sled and the Sun and Moon inflatables from Simon in New Zealand.
Ooh, awesome.
Can't wait to get those out.
Who here is making the whales?
I've completed 3 already. I bought 2 from Peter Lynn when he first offered them. I was excited about that, and then Andrew had such a good deal with no shipping and custom colors. I ordered another one from him. So I've got 3 completed.
I did my 2, and then a fellow here in town bought a dozen, and he doesn't fly. And I have done 5 of his, so I've done 7, and I've started an 8th one.
They're not too bad once you do them.
So I have a question because I have 4, and I've got my template. I've read the instructions, but I want to start sewing. Hopefully the next day or 2 because I took a day of vacation. But in the instructions, it didn't show real well what the sewing on the bridle reinforcements is. It said something about crosshairs. And it said, see the picture, but the picture didn't really show it. The video didn't really show it.
There's some clear reinforcement, like inch square clear reinforcement, and you just put those inside, and then you do a up and down, left and right, point to point, like back and forth 6 times.
Oh,
and then
okay.
you put the bridle on kind of from, around the middle where those 2 cross.
Okay.
And then there's one by the lip of the kite. I kind of just do a T. Because it's right at the very front edge with the mouth, and I just do the T rather than an X.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that was reinforcement number 5. It's a T. I put together some notes for people here in town. If you're interested, I'd be happy to send you my notes.
Sure, that'd be great, Pam.
Because my first 2 went together differently than the 3rd one.
Mine went together pretty well. Again, it just, you can't be too caught up on being perfect because a lot of times it may be a couple inches off, especially where the mouth comes to the belly, and you just, as you're sewing, you kind of curve around and make that. And one thing I did with my last one, which was really helpful, is when there's a 5mm fold on the edge of the fins and the tail when you sew it to the body, and I marked that at a 10 centimeter, 10 millimeters. Fold it and crease it, and then I actually took Gutermann and glued that down.
Oh.
So when I'm sewing it on, it's all folded under, it's right there, and I don't have to worry about trying to hold that little flap underneath as I'm sewing to the body of the whale. And I took a little bit of time beforehand and creased those and glued them down, and then it was way easier to sew the fins and the tail on.
Good idea.
I didn't have problems sewing on the fins, but the tails were harder to fold under because it's such a curve.
Yeah.
So I have those Wonder Clips, and unlike what Grant used with the glue, because I didn't think to do that, I used I used the Wonder Clips to hold down those folds because the
Yeah.
fabric is
And the
really
cake-
soft, and the fabric does not hold a crease very well, not for long.
That's where the glue came in.
Yeah, so don't fold it
And
to
that's again is having sewn this and some other inflatable kits. Is you've got to learn to, you've got your line mark where the fin sews on, but don't be a perfectionist. Is that last 6 inches, you got to look and say, okay, if it's too much, I'm going to go outside the line to use that up. If it's short, I'm going to go inside the line to make that tip of the fin stop where I want it to stop and not be locked into having to follow the line. You're going to have to maybe adjust inside or outside of the line to just use the right amount of material to end up where you want it to stop.
Do you guys know if they're going to be doing more of those kits?
The feeling I got, because when I ordered the ones from Peterland in New Zealand, is this was kind of a test run to see if they're getting ripped off a lot with people copying it and selling it, and see how the whole thing goes. And they may be releasing other small sizes of their other kites and stuff, which would be wonderful. Is just having that stuff all cut out and ready to go is, and they're nice kites. They came out really nice.
Simon had suggested on Facebook early into the project that there was going to be a project this fall or winter.
Okay.
I just hope Aaron here in town doesn't order a dozen of them without checking with people.
I know that they had done a workshop with the really nice manta rays, the really intricate manta rays.
Oh gosh.
And I was talking to Ralph Brzezinski, and it was like a 2.5-day workshop to just sew the face. Everything else is already sewn. And he said that was a one-off project. They wouldn't do that again. But Ralph Brzezinski had one of the really nice manta rays that he had done in a workshop.
Wow.
That was beautiful.
There were extra kits that weren't initially spoken for. I don't know if they're all gone now. You might want to check, Daryl.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was thinking. I totally meant to order a few of those, and just
I thought Linda said he was out because I had ordered. One another reason I ordered through Andy was custom colors, and I somehow got lost in the shuffle and didn't notice until it was too late. But then I just purchased one of the kits he had. But I thought Linda said he was about out of kits, and he had like 750 kits total. It was crazy the amount of work he did in organization.
My understanding is they're all sold.
yeah, that's what I've heard too.
I don't know if you can always get, well, it's different, but Robert Van Weers had his bannerfish kits and his tang kits. And again, I had built a couple of those. He said, oh, you can copy if you want, but there's so many pieces in there. It's just, I'd rather just buy the kit from him and have them all cut out.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those that I made. I was thinking about, I have the larger size. I was thinking about actually getting maybe 3 of the smaller ones because I have 2 of the largers. I thought do kind of like a family with 2 big ones and then 3 little ones, but the last little one, like do a purple tail on it and do some tattoos and figure out how to get an earring on it somewhere and kind of make that the black sheep of the family.
Did you see Craig Rogerson's whale?
Oh, it was
Because his whale has tattoos. It's got a mom tattoo and an anchor tattoo on one arm, and it's got these really grumpy looking eyes. It looks really cool.
There were some great eyes that people came up with.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to try to do something to personalize it, and one of the things I'm kind of holding me up is I'm trying to figure out an extra applique to put on. So, but I think the couple of the classes this weekend have given me ideas of how to draft that up a little easier.
I've seen someone did hot rod and flames and a whale, and someone also had tattoo. I still have 2 Spirit Man kits sitting down there because I ordered an extra one to thing, and then Linda sent me hers to sew if I ever got around to sewing them. That was a rough sew, and I may eventually get to them, but that was a tough sew. What year was that, Cliff? Out of OKR? What was the year it flooded out at OKR?
You talking about for the Spirit Man?
Yeah, that was the year that it got flooded out and all the teachers got rearranged.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
a long time ago.
Yeah, that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, we had the big floods. It was at least 12 years ago, if not more.
So I'm really late joining. What's going on? Sorry for being so late.
So
Just
far, we've
chat.
just been chatting about whales. I'm not sure exactly what Nick had planned for this session, but it seems like it's kind of a freeform thing for the most part. So
Yeah, I feel somewhat. I suggested this to Nick because I thought I have a lot of UMake projects, and I said, and Mary's laughing. I have a lot of unfinished UMake projects, and I was thinking that if there were some tips or tricks. Well, in theory, I was going to be working on one of them right now, but in reality, I have 2 other kites on the table that are not done, and I need to finish those. But I have several kits that I need to do, and I thought maybe if there were tips and tricks from other people who had attended, like I have a drum box, which I haven't made. And I don't know if there are like tricky parts or I don't even. So I thought, go ahead. Hi, Pam.
Nice to see you, Steve. My tip on the drum box is to make the seams exactly as wide as they're intended to be, because if you don't, the spars won't fit.
I have a saw.
That'd be an extra step, and then it'd be time you could be spending on another UMake kit.
Yeah. One thing
There's always a solution for everything, Steve.
Yeah, saw.
But when I get home from a retreat, I always go through my kits, inventory, make sure all the parts are there while it's still fresh in my mind, and then try and label everything. I wrap all the spars together, put what kite it's from, and put all the parts in a bag, because too many times you get home and see, or a year later, see a bundle of spars, and it's hard to remember what those spars went to. And then I found out recently a lot of stuff with blue painter's tape and black marker, and the markers faded where I can't read my writing, so I'm not sure what they go to, what that bundle goes to.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you get home and you find out you're missing your drum box stick that has the centerpiece glued to it. That was a real problem. Had to find another.
So tip number 1 on the drum box was sew it exactly to size. I don't think I got it. Did I get fabric? I don't, hold on.
And the lines are not straight.
Well, that's okay. My sewing lines are rarely straight, so.
Yeah,
I have a Triumph as well. Well, here's the one with, okay. I found my kit. There we go. It's in a bag. So the lines are not straight. So let's see. So yeah, so I have a picture.
we taught, Jim Day taught the similar, a mini drum box at OKR, but he had us, we drew the lines on the tail and showed it exactly on those lines. And he same thing with the mini. He said, You have to be exactly on those lines or it's not going to come out with the spars.
Okay. So this, I haven't looked at this one since I got it, but it looks to me like the instructions for this one are actually very thorough. We've got color pictures of everything. So
I was going to
Sorry,
say, I
go
can
ahead.
tell you Dick Tunan's latest.
you can send me new instructions?
No, this is a picture of Dick Tunan's latest.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's in the chat. You'll need to click on it.
Yeah, I'm clicking. So what other unfinished parts?
Any of Homestruck kits you have, I can help you there. I think I made every class he has taught. I built one or two of. But his instructions, you said you had to try them, and his instructions are pretty thorough there.
Right, I just did the Quadrax, but I had
Yeah.
done one in the class.
Mm-hmm.
Got an extra kit. But Grant,
His-
that's good to know. Thanks for offering, because I
His technique is pretty consistent from his project to project. He's kind of like, he's got a certain way of doing things, which helps.
right, he likes that single or straight stitch, double around the outside of the hem, right? So he's got a precise technique that is consistent. That's why originally I was thinking I would be doing the Triumph today, and I would be asking questions about, after I redid the Quadrax about a week ago, I said, yeah, I can probably do the Triumph. So then I moved on to the drum box, but before this session, I didn't pull out my instructions to find out that I had printed instructions. So now I know I have printed instructions.
One of the things that I noticed that you want to pay attention to is the way the pockets are put in. They're not straight pockets. There's some angling there. So
On the drum box?
yes, on the drum box. So they're not straight pockets. There's some angling to them. You want to make sure you do.
Okay. This is going to turn into Steve asking questions about all his unfinished kits. Nobody else is talking. I'm going to shut up because I've already asked about one kit
I'm
now.
curious, was it Brian? Did you end up doing your leading edge? Did you get, how are you doing on that?
I still have it on my table. I have measured it a few more times and I'm still reluctant to make that cut. You look smiling. Yeah,
Steve.
I'll get it cut eventually.
I put a picture from Dick Tunan on those joins and putting in the pocket. So you can see the angle she's talking about. You're on mute. I can't hear you.
I'm trying to reload it. It didn't load on the first try.
Yeah, the first one is his newest. I challenged him to use one of my Celtic knots.
Oh, I think I've seen that one, and I probably liked it.
But the next one is actually the joining with the pocket, and she was talking about how it's not flat, and there's a picture of it not being flat.
For some reason, these are not loaded, not loading for me. Like I'm seeing the thread ID, the attachment ID, the message ID, but they are not loading for me.
Are you on Facebook?
I am.
I'm getting the same thing. I'm getting a blank Facebook page, not getting any photos loaded.
That's bizarre.
I think Dave's just toying with our emotions.
No. Facebook is just evil.
Linda Larkey is suggesting on the chat, anyone from UMake, email me and I can get you a list of people who also took the class, but remember, we may not remember everything on that project. Linda, I don't remember what I did yesterday.
I got the picture, but the JPEG, but I see no way to get it now.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be in Google Meet a way to send photos or whatever. You could present.
So Brian, I can show real quick sort of like an example of doing the leading edge stuff here.
Yeah, I've
right?
seen a bunch of I've seen a bunch of how-tos, and I've seen like he prefers to go by Riff Clown from Kindlife. He's shown me multiple times. It's just making the cut I gotta do.
So which cut? Are you just talking about cutting up a Dacron?
So I want it to align. So I've got the Dacron. Yeah, I want the sail body to align with the leading edge.
So somebody
had
align
with a fold, right?
Yeah,
so you have plenty of excess. You have plenty of excess. So like cut with like several inches of excess so that then you can stick it on and you'd stick it so that it's kind of, you know,
past the end of the sail.
Yeah, going well past the end of the sail here, right? And then what I'd do is I'd fold this to match the direction of your trailing edge. Fold it like that, right? And then I use a protractor here to figure out where the same fold point would be on the other end. I need to trim off some of this excess though, because it's in the way. Trim off that excess. Then I need to do the same fold on the opposite side. Right, so I'll just mark that with a pencil. And then I'll also mark the center point. This is a 2-inch Dacron, so I'll mark in the center here, 1 inch in from the side. So now I got these 2 marks. I can make a fold from that center point to this one to make a matching angle. So now I've got that, right? And then I can fold this. Well, next I'll go and I'll make another piece to sit on top with the same fold, right? I'd make another rectangle, fold it in similarly inward, and put that on top to kind of hide those layers. So now I've got a reinforcement piece on top of that. And then I end up folding this back and then sewing. Right, so you'll end up like that, right? So you don't need to cut it perfectly. You cut with excess. You fold it back, put another layer on top to fold in to make it look clean. Okay. And then you have nice folded edges that aren't going to fray, and you don't have to be precise in your cutting in the first place.
Yeah, that's a different one than I was shown.
Brian, if I might suggest using CAD, cardboard aided design, and just do it in paper until you figure out exactly what steps you need, and then do it in Dacron.
Yeah, I think I've got the measurements. I just need the courage, you know?
Hey, Waddy.
That's why you do it in paper.
Yeah, it's the.
Yeah, do it in paper, or get just some scrap fabric and sew the leading edge end until you figure it out. Right, but
yes, and remember, Steam Ripper is your friend.
What? But so Waddy, you have it joined to the mesh, joined to the sail when you do that.
Yeah, so I do the sail, and then I'd put a layer of mesh on top of that, and then the leading edge pocket to the mesh if it's an outdoor kite. On indoor kites, I don't do the leading edge mesh.
Right, but so on an outdoor kite, you don't build the leading edge with the mesh and then attach it to the kite.
Nope.
You build the kite, you finish cut the sail.
Yep.
How are you attaching the leading edge to the sail? Is that just double-sided tape? Are you folding it over? What are you doing there?
So I do the rolled hem with the mesh. Yeah, so I put the pieces together. First, I'll make the whole strips, and I'll kind of like use tape to kind of lay out my strips of mesh, lay out my reinforcements, and get all that lined up. And then I'll do kind of a, if you take the pieces together and they're folded like this, I do that with the mesh and then sew that in. So now I've got the sail with kind of loose edge mesh at the top with hot cut angles on the sides. I put Dacron on the edges and then hot cut it to match the angle. And then do just what I did just now with the leading edge, going off of the mesh instead of the sail. So I just build on top instead of trying to build a whole leading edge and stick it on.
Yeah, because I did that, and I had to cut 2 leading edges recently.
Yeah,
they were just slightly long, and I was like,
it's easy to make a mismatch. And plus, if
Right.
you change your dimensions, like this approach is the same. If I'm making a small kite or a big kite, or if I tweak my dimensions slightly for some reason, I don't have to recalculate all those other things. It just it fits whatever. Right.
I liked. I talked to Elliot, and he was saying that he attaches his leading edge with a Z-fold strip of fabric, right? So the mesh. So you sew this strip of fabric to the top of the sail, and he sticks the mesh in that, right? And then sews that. And so you don't see the mesh, right? It's a very clean edge, and it matches the edge binding that he puts around the rest. So I did that, but that was harder for me. And that's how, because I built the leading edge ahead of time, it ended up not matching. But I hear what you're saying, right? So put the mesh on, cut it to length, put the Dacron on, and you sew the reinforcements while you folded it over. So you measure where the reinforcements have to go, sew them on, because you need the tube to be open.
Yep.
Fold over the ends to the exact dimensions you need to get that right. Sew the reinforcement on the end, right? Then fold it all shut, and then sew down the length, right? Am I getting that pretty much right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I sew in all the reinforcements before I actually sew the pocket. So the pocket's splayed out. I sew the reinforcements on top of that.
Right.
And then fold it in and sew the line, and then it's done.
I do, actually. I have a long list of quads to build, a very long list.
Me too.
Yeah. I'll give you an idea, right? Here's my that's my Dacron.
There you go. Is that blue Dacron?
Yes, it is.
That's fun.
And I have that too. So Texlon. They have some right now. Blue. Oh wait, I might have bought it all. Oh no. Sorry. What else was I going? Frank, when he was doing his session on the Elfie quad, he was talking about how he does that leading edge end. So he cuts it to match the kite, and then he takes a piece of Dacron and folds it over. Let me get a pair of scissors here. So I think it was Brian was asking the question, right?
Yeah, I think I've got it more than addressed at this point.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, it's good. It's supportive. I like it.
What Frank said he does is he takes, after he's made the leading edges on the kite, he cuts it to length, and then to get it to match, he folds over, like he folds another piece, right? He folds it in half, and then he folds it in, right? And then that just goes around the end of the leading edge. And then I think he sews down the length of the kite. So he just like folds it over and folds it and slips it onto the leading edge. Yes, you have to cut this away so that you can get the angle in there. But I was like, oh, that's so simple, right? You cut it exactly to the end. You just slide this reinforcement cap in there, and then you sew down the length of the kite. And you're
Right.
done, right, Waddy? Except you do it unfolded.
Yeah. And I like the fold in there because then it keeps, you know, rather than a cut edge, because then it keeps it from fraying. And then I fold it
Exactly.
outward so that, because I used to fold it inward, but then when you push rods through, the rods go and hit the fold and like you can fuck it up. So fold it outward.
Hey, this is a family thing.
You can screw it up. So you fold it outward and then you do a second, just a little reinforcement piece, fold it inward. And now you have these two folds just sitting on top of each other, straight stitch that. And, you know, it's super clean and all folded, no room for fraying. So.
Yeah, I'm just being ambitious. The fold I want to do is I've seen it like on the Elliott Shook's kites. I've seen it on the Gin. I've seen it on the Phoenix. I've seen it on a couple others where it's actually flipped inside out. So you have to cut it first 2 lengths to the leading edge, sew it down first, and then flip it inside out long before you attach it to the kite. So basically, because they've made, you know, a couple hundred of them, that they know exactly the length it needs to be.
I would do Waddy's method.
Yeah, that
I would do
Waddy's
Waddy's method too.
Yeah.
A lot simpler.
You still get the reinforcement. You still have it, right?
Yeah, it's all there. It's just flexible because I change my plans all the time. So.
And I'm totally going to wait for this recording to be posted because I'm going to need to watch Waddy do that again. Linda's yelling at me about virtual classes, Steve. Huh? She's not yelling at me, but she says, I don't understand. But then
you had said something about you didn't remember what you did yesterday, and she was responding. You
See?
were virtual classes.
Yeah, and I don't even understand from 30 minutes. That's like less than 15 minutes ago. I don't even understand. Oh my. Oh well. Huh?
No, I was saying we were just talking earlier too about getting kits from retreats and trying to remember stuff. And one thing I tend to do is when I get home, besides catalog my parts in my kit and everything and label, I always, a lot of times too, will scan the instructions so I have a copy of my computer. So it's much less likely to get lost if I am trying to label it well so I know what it was, or put UMake 2018 or whatever, put it in that file, because a lot of times instructions get misplaced or lost too. So one of the things I do to try and help with that is I always try and scan a copy of the instructions so I have it on my computer.
That requires a level of organization that
It's all that first day or so when you get back from the treat and you're unpacking and going through your raffle when you try and label. And
The trick is to never think to yourself, oh, I'll remember what that was for. And you've got it all together and you cannot for the life of you. Why did I tie that piece of white bit of ripstop around that pile of spars? I like Linda's suggestion on making a project bag and taking I think, don't you make them and take them with you to the retreat?
Yes.
When you go to a class, you throw everything into that bag and it doesn't get, I mean, that's just a brilliant idea. She just earned her weight in gold on that one, but I don't have the gold, so there.
I don't know if it was the intention he had it, but also with Dan Kurahashi's class with the heat sealing plastic, I tend to also make plastic bags for my spars and stuff and label it. So not only can I have them labeled, I can kind of see what's in there. And I've got all these long plastic bags left over a lot of times. And I'll make bags to throw the kits in that, and I can tape them shut then.
I just realized I have a box full of tractor feed labels left over from, 30 years ago.
Make sure they're still sticky.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they stick. Is Mitch on? They stick better than blue tape. let me see what other, maybe I'll open up my spreadsheet of unfinished kites and see what other kits I have in case I have questions. How many people are making kites on spreadsheets these days?
I try
have
my
been
best to just have one or two going at a time.
I've discovered that making them on spreadsheets is really fast.
I don't want to admit to myself how many projects I have. Then I'll try to talk myself out of doing anything new. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, you just copy paste.
I do have a spreadsheet for tracking my time on projects. I made a little script so I can talk to my Google Home and tell it to start a project, give the project a name, and then I just say start and stop on the project name, and it'll kind of track the duration, so I can kind of track my hours working on a thing to try to figure out like labor costs and stuff. That was a fun little project.
Okay, so now I've asked, how long is it taking you to make a quad?
Let me look.
So does Alexa do that?
It takes me about a week.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the panel layout. I should probably measure just the finishing, because the finishing on a quad is pretty like consistent from kite to kite.
Right,
But most of the time tracking I have is like including applique and stuff. But I did time track on the last one. Where is it here?
Well, I'm going to jump in and say that at the last session on the fighter kite, the video that we watched, it was really great to see somebody working not so much for total accuracy, but for a finished product. And I really enjoyed watching somebody just throw the tape on and get her done. So, and it still flies. And that's encouraging because I'm too meticulous on too many things. So that's the part that I find encouraging, is seeing somebody do it quicker and yet not horribly quicker. And
yeah, done is better than perfect.
Yes, and that's what my husband keeps saying. Oh well.
Yeah, yeah.
So Steve, this kite, it took me.
Cool.
I have 20 hours tracked on this one to get this one done. So that's with all the applique and finishing and bridling and everything.
Huh.
So 20 hours, not too bad. I don't know. I try to like kind of figure my time at like $20 an hour or something. I don't know.
Right.
So,
right.
So that kind of gives me a
$400 per
ballpark of like, okay, labor, and then I can calculate roughly the cost of materials to try to come to an idea of a reasonable price for something like that.
$100 for materials?
Ish, yeah, it's usually somewhere around there, maybe like 80 to 100 or something, depending on the
Spars.
stuff. But yeah,
Spars and
are always
fittings.
the biggest part. Yeah, well, I make my own fittings, so that's not too bad. But
yeah, I missed the start of your session this morning, which I can watch later. But do you have a close up of that your leading edge to vertical fitting, or how you're doing that? Bernd in Germany just posted, he's using, I think, Bazer's technique for tying that cap. So you're using,
Yep, so it's a T-fitting, and it's my own design that I then print, and then it has, what I like about it is that it has a hole and a groove right in here for the bridle line to loop through. So like I have other ones that I got from Ocean Shores kites that don't have this groove in here. And so it's really hard, like when I larks head the line on, it wants to slip off on the edges. But with the groove, it's like, oh, hey, now the bridle line can kind of sit in this groove and just stay in one spot. And then there's just a hole.
Are you having good luck with
where it pops
sorry.
out?
Yeah, are you having good luck with that plastic holding together?
Yeah.
And what are you using?
This is 95A TPU. That's the Sane Smart. Yeah, it's great. I use it for a lot of things. Lindsay did a good demonstration with the same stuff where he made a little T-fitting with it, same exact material, and he put two metal rods in it and just
I saw that.
shit out of it. Yeah, it's the same stuff. That's exactly what this is.
What about the end caps? Do you custom end caps, or are you just buying those?
This one actually has some custom end caps because I was playing with some stuff. This is kind of an interesting one because this is actually two materials. So I did PETG for the harder end cap part, and then I put TPU for the bottom because this is an indoor kite. So the concept was to have something squishy at the bottom, so it has some traction on like hardwood floors and things.
Right.
And then because it's a knock end cap, I added these grooves in here, which are probably a little too big, to connect the bridle line to, because it would get annoying when I would undo the knock stuff. The bridle would want to come out with it. So now the bridle has an independent attachment point from the tensioning and then the bit of traction down here. So that's printed. So I don't know, it's kind of nice. There's one thing I was thinking about a lot with Trinipol's discussion was like talking about the fittings and stuff. It's like, I just print whatever I want. It can be as firm or as loose as I want it to be because I can control it down to like 0.2 millimeters. So it's like, yeah, really easy to do.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know about all the different materials, so I had been concerned about durability with them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my spreadsheet has currently how many quads on it? Hold on. Now I want to know. Currently 26 quads to do. So, yeah, I've been thinking I need to get a whole bunch of fitting. So, yeah.
I mean, one of the really fun things too is like, so when I'm building a new kite, if I have a bunch of fittings that will all be kind of similar, like when I build my indoor dual line, right? I've got a handful of fittings that are all going to be TPU. All the sail connectors and the yo-yo stoppers, all those things are going to be printed in the same material. So I just do it all at once. Like the print, I just set up the print bed with all the fittings that I need. It just goes and prints them in like a few hours. And it's like, oh, here we go. I have all of my fittings for the most part.
Right.
So
for a single kite. So you just say, okay, go. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few exceptions because there's some parts that I might print in a different material. But if I can do a lot in one material, then it's like, I can just do all of that at once. And now I have all my things. So it's really handy.
So I'm asking a lot of questions because I haven't seen people in real life forever, and we did, and finally this year I'm actually making kites. To the other years when I only made them at UMake. So
but
now
to answer
I'm
your question, Steve, a bit about the end caps is that I'm not usually printing end caps because I still have a bunch of stock of end caps that I'm trying to go through.
Did you get them from where'd you
get rid of
Ocean Shores? Or?
I have a bunch of FSD caps. I forget if I got them for Goodwins or from Kites and Fun Things. I don't know. I've gotten them from a few places, but I've got these bags of FSD knock end caps that I want to finish using. So I'm trying to use those up, but unless I have some like actual improvement that I want to make to the design, like I did for the indoor one, where there's these features I want, then I try to just use up what I have.
Yeah. Hey, there's a question in the chat, and I'll stop. I'm going to be, I will try to be quiet for like 2 minutes or something so somebody else can get a word in edgewise. It's about the weather stations and I'm going to hurt myself, like anemometer. There. Oh, I think I sorted.
Steve, I'd pay $1 to see that.
What, to see me hurt myself?
No, it's to see you be quiet for.
I'm not sure what an anemometer is. Is that just like the spinny
it's a
thing?
wind meter.
Like, okay.
Meter.
Yeah, I never used one.
Couldn't
I don't
do
know.
it, Gary.
Yeah. I don't know. I walk out when there's wind and it's kind of feels like full sail weather. It's kind of like how it ends up going. And I'm usually pretty good with it after flying these things for 16 years. But yeah, I've never used a measuring tool specifically. I don't know. Does anyone else use the tool? Do you measure your wind when you go out and fly?
Here's the
No.
thought. I don't know if anybody's, really watched the weather man on whatever station, but when you see the wind patterns, sometimes when they put them up with the little where they'll all
Arrows.
kind of shift and everything, and every once in a while
Isobars?
doing all this stuff, and you could never hold up an anemometer, I think I'm saying that correctly, and get a true idea of the wind direction if they can't even get it on TV. So my thought is a good flyer just goes with the flow.
Come on, Grant. I'm counting on you. Come on, Grant.
I use them sometimes for informational purposes when I fly. I track what I fly in a lot of days. And here in Central Texas, we've got very variable wind. So I might be looking at it and the forecast says, I don't know, a day might be 10 to 20, 10 gusts to 20. And if I have a log of it and I can say, yeah, it dropped here, it was good here, it changes minute to minute and it can change by 5, even 10 miles an hour just over a couple minutes.
So I do like this app called Wind Alert, which is kind of nice. So it has like pinpoint locations of different weather stations or like different measuring points showing you the direction and speed. So you can kind of, in a sense, see where the wind flows, where it's, obstructed given the different direction because the wind is different speeds in different spots, right? So something like that's kind of nice if you're like thinking about, oh, I want to go here, but is there actually wind in that spot? And you can kind of get an idea.
Windfinder, Windy, and the U.S. National Weather Service, all three have really good maps. You can look at it and say, what will the wind be in this region at 3 o'clock this afternoon or tomorrow or Friday?
Could you post that on the chat?
Yeah, I'll post the ones that I use.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Spencer, when you went to Swift Current, Saskatchewan, how do you prepare for that?
For what, the wind conditions or?
No wind to hurricane and 180-degree turns.
Have you seen
very carefully?
Have you seen my kite bag?
Probably. Probably.
So I have it downstairs. So I use this hard case when I travel, and I put my kite bag in it and nothing else, and I'm at 50 pounds. So, and that's all sport kites. So I built a custom bag that's like a duffel bag that has this roll-out tongue so that I can organize the kites in the rollout and then roll it up into the duffel, and all of that. So I have, at least 2 kites for every wind condition, especially with quad line. I have even more because I've got the stack and then fly 2 kites at once sometimes. And then I have the pretty ones that I put on short lines. So there's usually at least 3 things I can fly in any wind condition. So I just got so much stuff. I don't swap out rods. I just set up more kites and swap out lines or set them up with multiple line sets. So it's like trivial to just jump between stuff. And that's usually what happens when it's variable, because I set stuff up throughout the day and I don't tear anything down until the end of the day. So I just, yeah.
This is why I'm always the last guy off the field, because I have so many kites to put away.
Yeah.
Well, at Swift Current, they've got the pen for the quad line people.
The pen.
And then the massive field for
everybody else. For the single lines.
Bohart and all of his victims.
And Gary. And don't forget Gary, right?
And Gary. And we got 2 polls for Gary.
I do really like it when festivals have like a spot, like I think Brookings does this sometimes, where there's a big trailer at the end and you can just shove all your kites in the trailer. So I don't even like, I'll have kites set up just over a whole weekend for a festival, not even bother taking them down, just shove them in the trailer.
Where was that?
I even have a bag for the stack. That's a quad line shaped bag that you shove the stack in, so you can carry it around without taking it all down, because that's a whole process. But that was at Brookings in Southern Oregon, where they do that. I think I've been in a few that have done that. But
Kites over Lake Michigan, up in Wisconsin, had that, and was up there with Linda Lark. Yeah, we went up the one time, but they had a big trailer set up, And all the banners, we could just take off the poles and leave them up and put them in there. And, you know, and they locked it up at night. Stuff that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice when they do that.
So it was someone's, was it Mickey was asking about anemometers too. I remember Gomberg was selling some too, but there are quite a few out now. You can just plug into the headphone jack of your phone. So if you are interested in having stuff, you can just plug it in and have them right there, which is easy. One less thing, you know, to haven't had one. It has, Gary knows in Indiana, the winds are never good and always swirling and stuff. So we just got a couple big flags down the street, and I always just look out the upstairs window and look at the flags and decide whether to go out or not.
Where is Mickey located? Microclimates and windbreaks. It's Google satellite view is your friend to try and find open areas, but
Yeah, I think the other part too is that I've just given up on looking at conditions, like wind conditions on planning. Like I look to see if it's going to be raining or not. But worst case, it's like if there's no wind, I got indoor kites. There's one way or another, I can do something. So I don't even bother looking at the wind. I just look to see if it's going to be like rainy or not.
I'm still waiting for someone to design the ultimate zero wind show kite.
We're
almost there with drone technology.
We're at Fano. I think it was 18. Were you? No, it was 18. You weren't there. Someone had one of the Peterlin rays, the large rays, and we were out with Jim Day and Kat flying their. God, what's the kites they make? What's the one they taught?
Condors.
Condor.
Flying the condors, which usually fly in very little, and they wouldn't stay up. And we looked, and this ray flew for 2 or 3 hours after that. Just must have been one of the light wind rays, but I was just amazed. We couldn't feel any wind, and that thing was still up there flying.
Oh, I have a condor kit too.
If a condor won't fly.
Yeah, there's no wind.
Is the condor in your spreadsheet?
But that ray was up. That ray was still
Hold
up.
on.
All just out there amazed.
Gwadi.
And how many iterations of the condor do you have, Steve?
Well, I made the mini and the big one that you make, and I got the plans and fabric for another one. So I only have one in the spreadsheet.
How's your small one fly?
I broke the spar.
Yeah, they're squirrely.
Yeah, I broke the spar. I had it out at kite party, and the wind came up and bam, right?
Yeah.
So not well.
Yeah, it was squirrely. It's too little. The big condor's fun.
Yeah.
I really like that kite. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's not tensioned enough because I was helping someone with at Kites Over Lake Michigan a couple years ago. He had taken a condor kit home, and the winds were really, really light, and my condor and a couple others were the only thing up. And he was trying to fly it, and his wasn't doing anything. This was the big one. And it really had to do, when I looked at it, it's like, you don't have any tension. It really requires it to be really tensioned. And when I've looked at my little one, I don't think it has enough tension on it to get that bowing it needs.
Your little one, do you have a spreader in back?
Yeah.
I know that was sort of an optional thing that Jim was saying about it.
Yeah, with the spreader, I still don't think it's got quite the tightness it needs.
I have a really hard time putting mine together because of the tension, because of my arthritis. I just can't put it together.
That's a lot of bending of a 180.
You can't bend it. That's the problem. If you bend it, it'll break.
It takes a lot of hand strength to get that last crossbar, the big ones. And you got to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already broke one.
But it flies nice when there's almost no wind.
Have anybody flown C1's new big bird? Begins with an A. I can't remember the name of it, but it's got like a 20-foot wingspan.
An albatross?
Yeah, really high aspect. Yeah, that's it. High aspect ratio. It's looks nice.
Does.
Like I still have a chew on prototype biplex that's broken in the closet that I should fix.
Yeah, so the kit list is only how many? Uh, 8, sort of. One of which is the Condor.
Well, that's 2 more for mine because I forgot I got the Condor.
Right.
The Condor kit and the Brassington Genki and
Yeah, you
I
guys
got
are
a
all
Gary-
talking about current stuff.
Got a
Does
Gary
anyone
Engvall
have any
box
old
from
kits?
last.
Well, the Triumph's kind of old.
I'm fairly caught up on the current stuff. It's the stuff I haven't quite got around to.
Well, I'm not going to say what I've got.
I found a roll of
Greg,
I found a
Daryl
roll of
has one
parts
too.
the other day, and I'm not sure what they are or where they came from, but they're wrapped in blue tape with my name on them, so I know that they're a kit from something.
Blue tape, probably from Mitch.
So
Greg, Daryl has one too.
Mike Button
box.
did a Cody kite years ago at Fort Worden. I think I found the parts and didn't remember what they were until after I'd already kind of mixed them with other stuff. But
Oh, you mean the spars I used on my Marconi that were meant for something else? Yeah, I found them, I used them, and I'm like, then I found the spars for the Marconi. Yeah. So now I have to make another Marconi.
so your spreadsheet, could you show us a visual of what you set up and how you share it to the screen so we can see what you're talking about? I mean, you might as well, do the walk of shame and throw it up there.
That's
Why stop there or put it in the cloud so we can link to it? Come on.
no, because then you'll be putting more stuff on it.
Okay, I'm going to bring something out that if you'll share that with me, I'll share one with you. A kite. I'll be right back.
You show me yours, I'll show you. Well, never mind.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's where my head went to. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We occupy the
So-
same gutter, Gary.
The the spreadsheet has a lot of stuff on it.
Poor young Spencer knows not of what we speak. He hasn't been in one of my workshops yet.
What?
Hi, Connie.
Hey, how are you?
Not bad.
Hey.
Good.
I'm about to. Rhonda's trying to me embarrassed. I'm already embarrassed.
Oh, we're not taking it out. Oh. Okay, I'm going to hold it up.
What are you
The
holding
challenge
up?
is for you. Okay, are you ready? No.
Whoa.
Before I get all done here.
Is that a candy blaster? No.
Oh,
The project
That's
is
the
inside
secret.
the tube.
the project's in there. We're not opening it up, but does anybody remember the name or heard the name Stormy Weathers from up in
Yeah.
Washington? That's a Stormy Weathers Star Victory kit that he personally gave to us.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
It's
did-
one that I think the Star Victory, he attempted the altitude record
that's
Of-
Lindsay.
of 29,000 feet up at Long Beach. And I'm trying to remember, I think he had the line attached to the rear wheel of a Vespa.
Yeah.
And it was Spectra fiber. Somebody donated to him.
And
And
I'm-
it snapped. It was foggy and the line was just coated with moisture and it snapped and they found it. 2 loggers found it. It was like a week or 2 weeks later, almost up to Olympia.
Wow.
And it had a Casio wristwatch with an altimeter on it, and he didn't quite make it to the altitude, but it was like 16, almost 20,000 feet when it broke. But anyway, just with that Mylar kite.
Oh, was it Mylar or just plastic?
No, I think it's Mylar, like space blanket.
Oh, okay.
So he had somebody donate more than 16,000 feet of spectra to him.
Yes. And he gave me a roll of that line that he used, gave me some of it. I mean, a big roll. And I had a friend who was, I don't know, for some reason I gave him that roll, and it's like, that was so stupid. I couldn't believe I did that. It was one of my dumbest things. But anyway, so there. And I can't remember when Stormy died. So if you're from Washington or know anybody from Washington or the Long Beach, Stormy was kind of an icon there. And it's good to say his name. So thanks for letting me share. Where's your spreadsheet?
You didn't open the tube. For all I know, it's just the length of pipe from the garage.
With end caps.
My spreadsheet, I've got a list of kits. So I have like 8 kits to make. I have a list of quads to make. I have a list of poster art kites I want to make. So it's just a big long list of sales with ideas. That's all.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you had like start and stop dates, or you had.
Oh no.
When you got them, when you got them. I mean, I wasn't sure how involved your list was.
Oh no. This is just my
like
list.
Expenses, at least he can track his time. I guess it could fall to the point where, what's the thing for antiques? Is it 25 years?
25 on cars.
And
what does that make cost?
And then you get antiques and collectibles and
working on the third lap there, Gary.
Whoa!
Well, yeah.
We're not old. We're retro.
Vintage.
There it is.
My motto is, I may eventually look my age, but I'll be darned if I acted.
I'm with you.
Amen.
And the other one is like, Lindsay keeps reminding me of how old I'm going to be on my next birthday. And it's like, that's not right. I don't feel that old. I even ripped 1 year off of it. And he had to very kindly remind me.
Yeah. How old's your son?
Oh, shut up. All right. I don't like him.
Take away his tool
Late for that
allowance.
now.
That was it, Steve. That's it. Take away the tool allowance.
I'm escaping up to my shop.
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes away.
Well, and this way there won't be any witnesses. Okay. I see that Jim's on there. Is Jim still on there?
Oh God.
I don't know. I think we scared him away.
Well, I had shared that with the fighter group and was wondering if any of them wanted the Mylar or these are from 1989 at Long Beach.
Yep.
Indian fighters. They never got bridled, but they were given to me. Oh, well. Okay, I'm getting off so somebody else can talk.
I saw that, Steve.
I do have a question. I do have a question for Steve. Did your son David finish his Genki with the dragon on it?
Your mic's off.
It's because Gary.
Meow, but it sounded like no.
That wasn't David. Yes, he finished his Genki. It flew. We didn't really have time to tune it. Caps from, so we put substitute end caps on. So we might have to order some. I'm going to end up placing an order with John in the not too distant future because I'm going to need some spars. So I'm going to have to get the end caps and other stuff. So yeah, he made it. It was good. I have the scraps over on a table over there from it's still sitting over there because the red is a big piece.
Right. It was gorgeous. The party had done it you make a couple years ago.
Yeah, thank you.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I'll credit Christian for that because we watched his videos and and copied that, right? So he laid it out. David did the design in CAD first, and we printed out the full design in CAD, on sheets, laid it out on the table, laid out the fabric. He traced the whole design and then used Christian's technique to glue it all down and cut it away. So he ended up with a really nice sail as a result.
It was as flat as could be. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and he's sort of meticulous that way.
Yeah.
Unlike his dad. But that's why he got done, right? So, yeah. Thanks for asking. He's off at college now. It's weird. Yeah. I have a question. Has anybody done, so I did the Ohashi. Yeah, thanks, Waddy. It's not about quad lines though. It's about still lines. I did the Ohashi class last year, and I'm working on some sales now. It's 2 to 3 on the dimensions of that sail when you finish the finished dimensions. I have some applique that I have done that I was planning on doing as an Ohashi, but it's narrower and the borders will be too wide on the sides. Has anybody made a mini Ohashi, and how does it fly? So instead of it being 2 to 3, I'm going to guess it might be like, the width might be 1 to 2 or something like that. I guess I should measure it. What is this? It's 20, call it. I'll probably end up like 25 or 26 inches wide by maybe 54, something like that. Has anybody, I'm just trying to think about how that might fly.
I took the class with the smaller ones, not the big one, although I have the kit, which isn't done yet. But when he talked about the flying, a lot of times it bows in at the sides depending on the wind, and that kind of affects how you're going to fly it and how you want to stabilize it, was what my understanding was.
It had the Ohashi has those battens on the side, or at least the kit does, the large one. I was debating, it's sort of somewhere between like the noodle kites, right? That I think it was Ron Gibeon talked about several years back at UMake, and the Ohashi, which is a bit wider. I don't know. I'll just make it and see how it flies. I think I just wanted to know. I'm going to make it Ohashi style. I think with those two bent or two spreaders to keep it flat. I don't know. I was thinking. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But those are what's on the table right now.
That's the kit I regret not buying last year. But I noticed on Kite Plan base there's an Ohashi plan. I don't remember the dimensions. You might want to take a look at that.
I think all you have to do is Oh, somebody just posted it.
300 millimeters by 200 millimeters.
Yeah, so it's 2 by 3.
I don't think it really matters one way or the other. I was lent, I believe it might have even been a real ohashi from the Japanese Cultural Society here. And due to the way that the upper and lower spreaders bend, it shouldn't matter. It's
Yeah, that's
sort of
kind of what I was thinking.
Self-tailing kite.
Well, mine actually was, of course, I'm in the Midwest, right? So the wind sucks, and it was kind of all over the place when I went to fly it. My one from UMake. So I was going to put a tail on it. I was a little worried since these were skinnier that maybe they would be even more. I don't know if they'd be more or less squirrely. I don't know. But I can make it.
I would suggest moving the toe point up.
Yeah, it could have been.
And
The wind was really bad that day too.
for the small ones, for higher winds, he definitely puts more tail on them, and lighter winds he does not. So for the small version, especially in trains.
Yeah, so he puts tail on the small one when he makes a train. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking, is that I'm going to make a bunch of these and put them in a train. That's what a lot of the kites on the spreadsheet are. I know Rhonda's gone, but a lot of the kites on the spreadsheet are
No,
that.
Lindsay left. I'm still here. So I'm still annoyed.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry, I thought you said you were leaving. Yeah, it was Lindsay.
No, Lindsay.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
well, then I have something for you here.
Okay.
Can you see
another
it?
tube. Mine had end caps.
Yeah, this doesn't have end caps. But that's another project, was setting up. I need to set up roll storage and fence it for the cutting table, because I want to be able to. Right now, it's sort of messy to cut. It wants to roll off the table all the time, and I don't like that. Hi, Mark. You're on anyway.
What? I'm here.
One thing about Google Meet is you're not looking at yourself. I do like that.
Well, you can change it to do that too if you want. I have a question for Rhonda though. Question for Rhonda. Last year at UMake, I took the Felina class, and unfortunately, we really kind of ran out of time, and I have yet to complete any of the 3 kits I have. Was there ever any directions put together on those, or what? I don't know.
Well, Lindsay, basically, no, because he was teaching hands-on, even though, but drop me an email or, a note. I've got your name written down. And so you have the Felina?
Yes.
And also the Tomitomo?
No, I didn't do the Tomitomo.
Just the Felina.
Correct.
It's really easy to make, but again, without written instructions,
Yeah, I kind of got a little bit of a start in class, but we quickly ran out of time. So
okay, so let's share where you're at, and then I'll walk you through it, or Lindsay and I'll walk you through the process, because I've got a couple that I need to get built. So let's see if we can't do that when it's convenient for you, maybe this next week or so.
Okay, that sounds good.
Somebody else from UMake, with everything that went on, and we got back just in time for the lockdown, and then went through a lot of stuff with my family, and then not to bring a downer, and my mother passed away January 4th of this year, and
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
And it's not because she had COVID, it was because of COVID.
Oh.
You know, and because she lived in a care center and they were family ran, 39 residents. I mean, very hands-on, wonderful place, but they got locked down. And so I didn't move her down near us because I wanted to leave her up in the Portland area where my son and his wife and a granddaughter and her family were at, so that they could participate with her. And there was like a separate free kitchen we could use. We could go in and visit her anytime, and it was just an awesome setup. But then COVID happened and my mom got cut off from us. And even though we could talk by phone, it was the hands-on part of it. And they worked really hard to keep their facility without any infection. And they wound up having two bouts of infection go through. And they didn't lose anybody the first time, but the second time they did have a couple of deaths. And that was when my mom came down with some other medical issues that slipped past our notice because we weren't around her all the time. And anyway, she died on a Monday, and by Saturday they were able to reopen their facility and people were sitting in the dining room eating together. When I walked in.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I didn't finish mine either.
Oh, good. You were the other name I was trying to remember.
No, but the person who won the raffle item is a good friend of mine here in town. So I borrowed hers and I put mine together. And as I put mine together, I took photos of each step. So I actually have photos I could send to Mark because I sent them to Nancy Crablin, and Nancy finished hers from my photos, if that would save you a step.
You guys
that would be wonderful, Pam. That would be wonderful.
I did the same thing. I took photos because I'd heard some people hadn't finished, and I still have grants at my house. One of these days I'll get it to you. But I had put one together with a very new person who didn't know how to sew. So I had helped put one together, but I didn't have time to do mine. And it was a couple months. But yeah, so I have photos too, and I wrote down each step with them. So
yeah, Mary, and I will say this, you were so awesome to jump in and put your project aside and help her, and you just made her day. And that was the thing I love about UMake and the majority of our kite making classes is just that we as kite builders will put aside what we're working on to help somebody else. And, you know, it's just awesome. Sometimes I think it gets me out of having the stress of trying to make my own stuff. I can practice on somebody else's, but I've had Dan Kurahashi many a time.
I was happy to do it, but I as long as I got you on, Rhonda, and I'm sorry to hear about your mother, but I never got my kite parts for the Tomatia. And I kind of forgot about it for a really long time, but lately it's like, oh yeah, I should try to get those still. You're muted.
Rhonda, if you're expecting us to hear whatever you're saying, we don't hear you because you're muted.
Good, because that was a really awesome apology, and now I don't have just read my lips. I'm sorry. So we'll get this followed up on.
It's no problem. You know, actually, as a physician, my year's been really, really crazy. Everybody else has been making things, and I'm like, I don't have any time. I don't have any time. I'm actually finally getting to the point where I have a little more time to do that. So.
Yeah, I know exactly. I see my mic is on. I know exactly what you mean, Mary, because I've been heavily involved in my mom's care for several years and have other siblings that could have helped out, but they weren't there. And now that she's no longer around, I'm, finishing up her estate and everything. But I'm having to refine myself, redefine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you guys you're awesome.
I'll just ping Pam. I'll be in touch with
Rhonda.
Why do I have this?
I already sent them.
You already sent it.
2017, I was in Brookings and he sent me home with a quarter. And I don't remember why.
That may have been because that was the 25th year for
Bingo, that was.
and I was trying to be funny about, having something to give somebody that, I didn't have time to make anything. So I found all these quarters with the first year on it. And that was the 25th anniversary, was giving out quarters to everybody. I had to go through a lot of quarters to find those. So I forgot. I do things.
I'm trying to find the date on it now.
Well, the year
Yep.
should be 19 something. What? 19. What's the year on the quarter?
Good question. Oregon,
Yeah.
1859.
No, it's not.
Well, the year that this was printed was 2005.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. Okay, I don't know now.
But
Maybe I
this
was
does,
thinking ahead.
or it is an Oregon quarter.
But it says 2005.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to think on that. Dang it! I didn't know there was gonna be a test. All right. And you got it at Brookings?
Yep, and it was the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
Is that you, Mark?
What?
Are you playing a game?
No, I was thanking somebody for something.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh, you're muted again, Rhonda.
dang it. Yeah, that's right. Red is stop. I wish this thing had turned green and then I know what I was doing. So did you share your spreadsheet or you just talked about it?
I talked about it. It's just a list with a lot of sales on it.
Okay.
Now I'm trying to decide how I'm going to frame these applique pieces. Am I going to cut out one big giant piece and cut out the center? Or am I going to cut strips and put them around like a picture frame? I don't know.
What's your project? What are you working on?
Those skinny Ohashis.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, what was it? Oh, I know. It was the CAD and Andre, you said that the CAD program, is that right? Cardboard assisted design?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's exactly
You
correct.
cut out, wasn't it you?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to cut, but I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to.
With a hot knife in his hand, hot cutter in his hand. I
love this thing. I just got this.
Is that
I
your
got
bargain?
this. Huh?
Is that your bargain?
Yes, this is the bargain. I got this off of FacePlace, and this thing is awesome. I can't believe I've been using a little tiny cheap like $5 soldering iron for a really long time. I can see Andrew shaking his head, and I got one of these, and oh my god!
Even a good soldering iron works better than a $5 soldering iron.
Yeah, it was not a good well, it was an okay soldering iron. Maybe it was an $8 soldering iron.
But remember, cut once, measure nonce.
Yeah. Buy more fabric. But this thing, it's Alden got the other one.
How much did you pay for it? If you
What?
don't mind.
I think I got it for $85 shipped. No, this one was 100.
Yeah, that's about the price of a proper soldering iron.
Right. But this thing heats up super fast, cools down. It's just gorgeous. I love it. And when you're cutting up big pieces of ripstop,
They're from Germany.
yeah,
Sandwich that thick.
more of them on Facebook Marketplace. So
So is Gary still here? Is he gone?
he left.
Because he was saying yesterday something about keeping the soldering tip up.
Never.
What was that all about?
Oh, heat rises.
I know that, but
I think he was trying to keep the handle cool. Just never do that.
Thanks for the clarification.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, and then there was the comment about the soldering irons being too hot, because of the wattage. Is there kind of the thing with the dial on it that you can turn I want to say volume.
Mine has a temperature gauge on it. You can got little buttons, press up and down, and to set the range. It goes from like 200 to 450 or something.
Well,
yeah, but that's
one of those TS 200
that's
things.
the good ones.
Yeah. Well, I love mine because it has the variable temperature, but I really love the fact that it turns itself off after I don't touch it for a while. Because the last one that I had died because I left it on, just totally burnt itself out, and it just wouldn't even heat up worth a shit anymore. So I really like that. Or one of those. I would like one of those. I don't know where to get one.
And lights.
Right. Normally, the soldering pencils will melt. They melt lead at about 333 C, which is about 700 Fahrenheit. So for Dacron, you got to turn them down anyways.
Yeah, for a good soldering station, they go from about 120 Fahrenheit up to about 900 Fahrenheit. But really, for a lot of electronics, you want it between 300 to 500, depending on what you're melting. But for fabric, you really only need 200 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I hear you guys talk about, it's a good soldering iron, I'm like, oh, what is it, a $200, $300 station? And they're like, no, it's a $5. I'm like, oh, that's just, yeah.
No, Brian, mine's not good. That was the problem.
Yeah, they go tip down.
They go tip down.
And the other thing is if it's not useful as a soldering type tip anymore, if it's soldering tip, it should be silver on the end. It's what's that stuff? Copper underneath, and a big copper heat sink. And if it gets golden colored, it's ruined. It's no longer useful as a actual soldering iron. So yeah, at that point, use it to burn your fabric.
If you really feel like it, a Hakko FX888 is a more than adequate soldering pencil for real stuff, or you can use the burnt out tips for kites, and it'll just sit there and perk all day. I mean, the worst you're going to do is wreck the tip, which is already wrecked anyways.
Adrian Kahn was at UMake a few years ago, and I've seen him at different festivals and at the conventions and stuff, and we always seem to have sat together, and we talked about his cats, and just a lovely person. And at UMake, he was saying that I think he said he had an 80-watt soldering iron, and I live in Minnesota. My basement's really cold, so it's really hard to cut in the basement in the wintertime because it's just so darn cold down there. And he said, well, if I bought this 80-watt soldering iron, he'd make a tip for me. So he did. He made me a tip and mailed it to me. And then he asked me if I had a hot tacking tip with a string on the end, and of course I said no. And he said, well, I'll send you one of those too. I'm the luckiest girl in the world to have those tips from him. He was pretty funny. Simon was teaching that class, the Garuda. That's a great kite, by the way. And Simon would say something about a technique, and Adrian would say to me, well, I wouldn't do it that way. And then Simon would say something else. Well, and and Adrian would say, well, I wouldn't do it that way. And then it was time to bridle, and Adrian was saying, well, I'd use this knot. And, you know, not out loud to anybody, just like to me. But it was pretty funny. It was just delightful to have him there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adrian and Simon were a riot together, and we did a thing at Antelope Island in Utah, and Adrian wanted to get some chocolate donuts, and Simon wouldn't stop the van so he could get them, and I kept yelling at him that he was being mean, and he goes, "No, I'm not." Those two had the funniest relationship, but I think Simon had a huge amount of respect for Adrian, and there was a certain amount of love. So, but that was so cool though that you got to get those things from Adrian.
Yeah, and then he sent me his Genki plan, which was, you know, I mean, these weren't things I asked for. He was just being the generous person that he was.
Yeah, and because of that, you know, those memories are going to live on, and you'll eventually build a Genki
Someday.
someday.
It's not on my spreadsheet.
I was going to say, put it on your spreadsheet so that Steve doesn't feel left out.
I am not going to put it on my spreadsheet. I don't. Genki is
It was a damn spreadsheet. It's her project.
well, look, yeah.
I have
The
all
problem
these-
is I kept having ideas, right? It just and every variation would be 10, and that's what's. It's just that's what happened, right? As I came up with an idea, I'm like, I could train these. Boom, there's 10 kites, right? And then I had another idea. Boom, 10 more. and very rapidly, I have a backlog that's, if I started making 2 kites a week, it's years. years of backlog. So I got 2 kites I want to finish today because of the backlog. That's, I don't know. Maybe I am nuts right now. I was nuts before. Now I'm nuts.
Are all these 4-line kites for you, Steve, or?
A bunch of them are.
Yeah.
So the quad lines, I'm probably going to, yeah, some of them are probably not for me. But I want to stack, and I want a stack of mesh or Vicky style kites, because I want to stack, but I don't want to stack a solid sails, and that's because of my arm from 2018. I don't want to try flying with that much sail. So yeah, so you know, that's a lot of
kite surfing harness that I'll use at times. So it's a harness that's around there, and then I have big handles that have a line in between them, and so I can hook it on my waist, and then I'm just using my arms to steer, and all the pressure goes down to my hips. If I am flying a stack and the wind's a little too heavy for it, then that's really nice.
Yeah, that would probably work. I wouldn't need the harness because I'm
I don't travel with it though because it's big and bulky.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd serve as a pretty good anchor at my current mass. But I broke my arm in 2018, and so it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes the stress off your arms and your upper body and just shoves it down to your hip instead. Which is
right.
Much
yeah,
better.
because you just have the leading edge is on your hips then, right?
Yep. And that's where the majority of the pressure is.
Did you?
Now Waddy. Sorry, Rhonda.
Sorry.
But Waddy just added 10 more kites to the spreadsheet. What the hell? Oh. Dude, you're killing me. That's 10 more.
Yeah, but you got all that. What was that? The 2 rolls that you held up, that were those sticky or were those just cut ripstop that you
What
held up
2
earlier?
rolls?
There were 2. You had 2 big rolls.
Oh, that was Dacron.
One was blue and one was black, I think.
Oh, that was Dacron for leading edges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you're making Vickies, you've already got the fabric stripped out. But
No.
that's not what that was. So why do you
No.
Be heavy, Vickies.
So
on your flying rig? Do you have it set up with a quick release in case gusts come up, or you're just really agile?
Nope. No, but I don't. Do I put? Yeah, no. There's no quick release. It is dangerous, but at least they're like. I mean, they're revved, so like you have pretty strong control. I can always push it off on the side and stuff. I've been dragged on my face a couple times, but you get it off on the side and it'll work. You can get it down, or worst case, just drive into the floor. Like I'll make more. But yeah, so I try not to do it too often. It's really just if it's like just kind of hitting that peak a little bit. I don't want to get picked up and stuff. I just want to take the stress off. Because I'm fine with getting dragged a little bit. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't really want to get it airborne. But I've done that. I've done snow kiting and stuff, and that's a lot of fun. But yeah, those have set up with a quick release, which is the whole thing. And they have the fact that you just let go of the bar, and that just kills the sail. Them. Yeah. Right.
What's really fun is doing loops with a kite a kite surfing kite, because a lot of kite surfers don't know that you can loop that. I mean, it handles like a bus, but it works just fine. Although they do freak out.
Yeah, that was the thing when I was going and trying, because I went to Utah like a year ago to try it for the first time. I went over with Blake Pelton and we were trying it out, and he was like, you're flying the shit out of the kite. It's like I'm like doing everything to get all the power out of it, and wasn't focusing as much on like my positioning and traveling and stuff. But yeah, I've taken some people's like power kites, like quad line ones, and like done bicycle rotations with them, and that's always kind of fun. Steve, I'm gonna mute you.
That's not me, is it?
I think it's Mark.
It's me.
I think
it was Mark. Okay.
A bag of chips or something.
No, you guys were talking about harnesses before, and I remembered that when I got my Force 10 from a guy, it came with a thing called a hurricane harness, which is kind of the same thing that Waddy was talking about. It fastens around your waist, and then there's attachment points for your lines, and then there's 2 other little handles that you put on there so that you can steer the kite while your body is taking the force of the kite itself. And I thought I remembered where I put it, and I found it, but it came with directions and everything. It's kind of cool. I haven't tried it yet because it's kind of fun to try to fly the Force 10 just with your arms, which end up being longer by the end of the day, but it's still a lot of fun. But now I got to try the harness.
Well, we added something to your spreadsheet, but it wasn't a kite making thing. It was just an event. Something to do.
I can send you the specs for the harness, Steve.
Rhonda, you should get Lindsay to make a set of fittings to remake trilbies. Because Mark will need a stack of 10. Steve will need a set of parts to make 10.
Yeah,
I already have a stack of 10.
There you go. Yeah, you'll have to send Lindsay an email and say, what about this? The more you guys keep him busy, the more he's out of my hair. So what can I say? Well, I'm going to quit bugging you all. God, it's so good seeing you. And but I'm got a project I got to go take care of. So you guys have fun chatting.
It's great to see everybody. I'm going to take off too.
Take care, Rhonda. It's been good seeing you again.
Everybody be well. Hope to see everybody in person soon.
Amen. This is where the party falls apart, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Rhonda leaves.
That's so corny. All right.
I gotta
talk
go
to you
get
later.
stuff ready for tomorrow for work. So
I've got Rhonda parked in, so I got to take off too.
Well, Rhonda.
Oh boy, now I'm starting the mass exodus. Well, Steve, you have fun cutting your fabric.
Well, Rhonda, it was unfortunate that we couldn't get together this year and drink lots of wine and eat cheese and stuff. This will have to.
ooh, that sounds good.
Well,
Now,
that's
what did I do? Oh, it was
that's what
another.
we do at Fort Worden.
Was an earlier session, and so I read off. Somebody talked about what. God, it was yesterday. It was about what having in the physical kite making retreats and all of that. And I'd written an article for Kiting Magazine last year, the year before, I'm not sure. But while I was sitting here, I was jotting notes on some of the things that people were saying. And so I ended with that. And I'll just read through this and then I'll say goodbye to everybody. But what it really meant to a lot of people was it was about the sounds, the rustle of crisp fabrics, the hum or the growl of a sewing machine, the distinct sound of the tick, tick, tick of a dull needle, and hearing Deb Cooley yell out, "Change your needle!" The chatter at the dinner table, the tasting of various beverages or shared nibbly foods, the genuine laughter after a well-played joke. And with that, I bid you all adieu.
Good night, Rhonda.
Good night, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Night, folks.
Night.
Night.
Good night, Craig. I guess I'm out of here too. I got to get stuff ready for work. So, good night, all.
Good night.
All right, looks like 2 of me's, 2 of Brian's, and 1 of Steve's.
Yep, I'm still here. Mostly just listening.
Yeah. What kind are you working on right now, Steve? You're muted, by the way. I might have missed the conversation. Oh, it was the what was it called?
Skinny Ohashis.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I've got two skinny Ohashis that are in progress right now. Yeah, so
yeah,
that's part of a series of at least 10.
Why are you doing everything in steps of 10? You just always want everything to be in stacks, is that?
No, well, these were going to be trains.
Okay.
So if I'm making a train, you need to have, like, I think about the Brasington trains, right? The statement kind of, right? I like them.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to bother making these to put graphics up in the sky, I think I'm going to go with at least 10 of a theme, right? And figure out which ones look great and which ones. And that's not even counting the fact that I could just vary the colors.
Right.
Like it becomes an infinite matrix very rapidly in terms of what you can make. And that's actually a real problem. And I am not shitting you. I put 10 more quads on my spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got my A stack, and that's great. I'd be curious. I'd be interested in making another one, but it's just so much work.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm trying to get to the point. My goal is to make 2 kites a month this year. I'm going to try and ramp it to more than that.
I'm a little under that on my average because I've been doing this about 3 years and I've made a little over 60 kites.
Right.
So I'm right around that.
Yeah.
Just a little under that.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I didn't make anything other than kites that you make until this year.
Wow.
So I decided this year, I mean, last year was a pandemic, right? I should have been making kites like a maniac and I didn't. And I haven't made anything other than you make kites. And now I suddenly just said, this is it. I need to do this or I'm not going to be doing it. And so I started.
There you go.
And and then now, and you know, you start sitting there and saying, well, what can I make? And I have to organize stuff and put it into, I realized, so I do a lot of project related stuff. So when you said I'm tracking my time, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Because I do really wonder how much, I know how much, it's a week of elapsed time if I want to make
Right.
a rev.
Yeah.
Right. It's a week because it's a night of cutting fabric. It's a night of assembling the sail, right? It's a night of sew. This is me, right? It was a night of sewing. The sewing was easy. The sewing was like zip, 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 zip.
Well, that's what I love about these ones with this panel layout.
Yeah, it's very simple.
It's 2 seams per side.
Yeah, that's really
and then
fast.
like 2 seams in the middle. So I can build one of these. I can build one of these in an afternoon.
Well, so you guys know what you're doing. I'm working on my first rev style, and I'm at a full month and still terrified to make cuts. So
you get there.
That
It takes
experience
time.
bit matters.
So the answer for me, Brian, which may not be the answer for you, the answer for me was buy too much fabric.
They'll have too much fabric. That's not the concern. I want it
Then
nice.
if you have too much fabric, then cut. Because here's what I know. Look, that's easy for me to say,
Yeah,
right?
it's easy to say.
I know. It's easy for me to say. I don't actually do that yet, right? But I've kind of gotten to the point where it's like I'm going to make, right? I'm going to just keep moving and make a decision and just start.
Yeah.
Brian, you left.
Well, some things are like the first ones, the earlier ones are always going to be like not as good, right? And that's
Correct.
just the way that it is. So like one of the greatest source of mistakes for me is always mismeasuring things. It happens like all the time, and so that's why I moved towards a lot more towards like templating, or like if there's particular distances that I use a lot, I make my own ruler that's like, oh, here's the length for this thing, rather than relying on the numbers, because it's really easy for me to mismeasure by like an inch or something. So I do stuff like that all the time, and I've been playing a lot with Illustrator to get nice printable templates and stuff with like seam inclusion, which is really cool, which was kind of inspired by the all the like open source type plans. Like dual line plans do this kind of format. That's really nice. Here, I'll
They
show
include
you.
the seam allowances for you.
Yeah, here, I'll show you the one for my prototype Shiznit, what I have right now. Let me share real quick, because it's really interesting and it's so useful, because you can put all this information down and get all your measurements and stuff like that. So you end up not having to measure anything.
Yeah. So,
if this comes up.
Brian, I had the advantage of my son is currently studying
Here it is.
architecture and had taken drafting in high school, and therefore knows how to use AutoCAD, right? So he totally measured one of our existing quads, you know, every dimension, and then he laid it out in AutoCAD.
Right.
And then I had access to a large format printer.
Yep.
Which
So I just print it and tape it.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Right.
So there's the thing in Illustrator.
Same
Here
exact
is
thing.
printed, and it has all the seams. And so I put this down on a light table and then just trace right out from there to do my panel sizes. I have my markings for where all the things go. And it just makes that stuff much nicer, so I just never have to measure stuff, because that's where I mess up.
Yeah, I did something similar. I've got my first paper pattern, and then I made actually all of the bits, just cut them out of another paper. So I have a paper kite with all the panels in addition to the original. Made sure they all fit, and then I finally eventually get a second one, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for real out of Icarus. So now I got piles of the stuff, and pieced that together, and now I'm just second guessing all the things. I mean, I was like, if I had a laser cutter or something, I would feel better about it.
At the end of the day, it always ends up being that it's not a big deal. Like I've made lots of mistakes, and a lot of those kites, I forget about the mistakes that I made on them, and I don't see them. So like it'll fly. I guarantee you, it'll fly.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? You're going to worry that this isn't going to be perfect, and here's the answer: it's not. And even your 8th or 10th one is not going to be perfect, right?
But the current one is the order of these the hems. I'm like, if I put this hem on now, I'm going to need to get the stretch strip in first, and I need to get the reinforcements at the bottom in first. But if I do the hem first, how do I put the leading edge into the top of the hem?
Don't do the hem yet.
And so what's the ordering?
So if you're doing the sail, the reinforce, you fold over the hem, but don't sew it. Okay. Put the reinforcements in the tail, in the bottom corner.
Right.
So all the way around, but not the top, not the leading edge.
Right.
Then what you do is then use Waddy's technique. So that goes inside. Yeah.
Yeah. So I put this Dacron on first. I tape this on and then maybe sew it a bit. And then once these guys, and I put the wear strips, if you're running wear strips along the verticals, I put that on before, so it tucks underneath here, which is nice.
Yeah, I've got that on there with the insignia tape. It's stuck, but it's not fixed.
Yeah, so I sew it. I just sew across a couple times. Like there, you can kind of see that it's sewn. And then I do the trailing edge hem before I do the leading edge. So full on trailing edge hem with a raw top, and then do the leading edge to fit onto that, going with the mesh and then the leading edge pocket.
And so his leading edge, Waddy's leading edge, he doesn't assemble it off the sail, right? He starts from the joint between the mesh and the sail, and sews that, tapes it first, folds it over, tapes it all together. How many? You just have one layer of tape?
I try to use as little tape as I can. So if I can, I'd probably do just one layer of tape and then let that hold it, and then just use the fold to hold the placement. But I used to do 2 layers of tape. I think there's no harm in like leaning on tape, while you're getting used to it.
And it's like flying, Ryan, right? Yep. As you get more skilled, you'll be able to get away with not using tape as a crutch. And tape is not a crutch. Tape adds structural strength to the kite, right? But you might be able to use less.
I used to tape all my trailing edges. I used to do double-sided tape as I did the hems on the trailing edges all the time. But I don't now. Now I just bone fold it instead and just rely on that. Even if I'm doing a dual line with a leech line or something, I'm piecing it together as I push it in. Which I wouldn't have done like a while ago. It's just getting real used to everything and how it all fits together, and seeing where you can take shortcuts to, 1, reduce mass and stickiness, and 2, speed up the process a bit. So
I have to keep remembering, I'm not making this to be a high-end thing. I was like, how can I work on I've got a bunch of lights that I've been working on, and I've just been hooking them up to my revs and my gins, and I hate doing that because I have to hold them on. I don't know if have either of you seen them? I think Waddy, you've seen them before.
You talking the 3-wind ones where you like melt the stuff onto the sail?
No. Let me show.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Right.
It's a LED 5 meter. I've got programmable. In this one, I'm just showing off the color patterns on it.
Right.
But it's got sensitivity for, I've got a 9-axis sensor, so compass directions, orientation, gyro,
That's cool.
all of that. So they look cool when I'm actually flying them. It's just the only problem is it's a pain in the neck to attach them and detach them. It's not like a little hook it on the spar.
Right.
Because you have to have them all the way around.
Right.
And they have to stay fixed. So you need, figure out a clip.
nice to have purpose-built kites for some of those things as well. Like I've always considered, like, what if you could take like LED strips and basically make an extra fat like hem, and if you just sew the LED strip right into the hem, you know, like to make it really clean.
Yeah, the problem with LED strips is they're not gonna, you know, they're probably not gonna last when you fold them. And, well, when you fold, you're gonna fold up the kite, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Where's another good one? Flying on the 4th. I was just at a park. And so I had some nephews playing with it. So I was just trying to fly in very light wind. I had put this on a vented kite in the morning or in the afternoon, not realizing the wind was going to cut down as much as I could. So really, I'm just fighting to stay up. But you can see it's got color changing as they go different orientations.
That's cool.
But yeah, when I've got them, I had them at SPI in 2019. But no one did the night fly. There were some people saying we should do a night fly, and I'm like, that's great. And I had mine all ready to go, and then they're like, nah, we're actually back at the hotel. We're not coming out. I'm like, curse you guys. So I was like, I should just go over there to outside the hotel you guys are all at.
Yeah, you should.
But we went over there, and there was no wind on the beach at that time. I'm like, well, that stinks.
Yeah,
that happens. There's all right. I'll show you what I'm making. I didn't want to show everybody, but I'll show you the single lines. This is going to be 2 different sails, so they are in process. I need to frame them with more stuff, but I'll get the light table lit up. Rhonda wanted me to show the whole, not that one, this one. Rhonda wanted me to show the whole spreadsheet, and there's too much stuff on there. Oh, I have to present, don't I? Well, no, you guys can see me, right? So as long as I'm talking.
Can see you.
Yeah. So those are the sails.
Is
a lot of small bits.
Is that all sewn?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It's a lot of work.
A lot of straight lines, actually.
That's nice. There you go.
It's a lot of straight lines.
Are you doing it all like back cut?
Yeah.
Like cutaway applique stuff? Not
Sort
like
of.
as opposed to hot cut pre-cutting?
So the black was pre-cut.
Okay.
Black was pre-cut, and then I cut out tons of little squares, and then little squares and strips and stuff, and glued them on. Does. And then I cut out the white. So I put the white over it. I put a piece of paper over the sail, put the sail on my table, put a piece of paper over it, put the white over that, and cut out all the holes for the so the white cut is the same size as the black.
Oh.
And I cut out all the.
So are you you put the sail down, you put paper over the sail, and then the white over that, and then with your light tables you can see where the areas are, and then you like hot cut on the paper. Is that what you're doing?
Yep, I hot cut on the paper to.
Is that just like normal printer paper? Or is it cardstock?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's like
I don't
know. Here.
Normal stuff.
So, well, it came in a roll. It probably came off of a large format printer, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've been thinking about like with my printed templates of just like what I've done recently is like light table, like blueprint down, fabric down, trace it, move the fabric somewhere else, and then hot cut it. And it's like maybe I can just hot cut it right on the paper. So I might try that.
You can hot cut it on the paper, but the problem with that is if you're using like that green hot cutter that I showed earlier, that German one, that'll burn the paper, right?
Yeah, I was using a soldering iron. I'd be more concerned.
Soldering iron was okay. So when that's what I do for the Rev, right? When I'm cutting the sail, I lay it right on top of the pattern, and just put a straight edge on there and cut the
That seems
outside
nice.
outside edge with a soldering iron, and that works.
Yeah, because especially when I'm prototyping, it's like I don't want to make like hard templates for a one-off prototype and then I'm going to change it later. So I want to just work right off the blueprint. The blueprint's probably a bit disposable because it's just a taped together one. So when I actually do the real thing at the end, I'm going to try to get a nice large format print of it and make some hard templates and do that as opposed to.
I keep saying I'm going to make hard templates and I never do.
I've done it a few times and I'll do that when I finish the design. But for the prototyping, I want to just make it cheap because I've already made 2 different prototypes and I already have plans for a third for my indoor dual line. Yeah, the shoes knit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my son came up with he did the design, the graphics design for the Mosaic Rev that I built. How many we built? He built 1. I built 5, I think. No, 6. I built 6. I'm going to build 2 more. That's why I have to finish these kites today, is I got to build 2 more this week. I made hard templates for that because I was planning on making a bunch more.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've seen this guy in Germany burned. I don't know. He's making the revs or the quads with all the diamonds, the equilateral triangles.
Yeah, those are pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, they are pretty.
Yes.
They look remarkably like the Mosaic Rev my son designed. But
that one's coming out of Germany, you say?
Yeah, he's on Facebook.
Because I know
his technique is more. I think he's cutting it all as triangles and then piecing the triangles together like quilting, right? That you can see it in the Facebook post. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
I was cutting out larger panels and then piecing the panels together. So everything that was a common panel, I was piecing together. But it was complicated shapes because you had all these, because my son interleaved the colors.
Right.
Sort of like a polygon kind of thing, but they're all equilateral triangles. But I think if I just cut the triangles and piece them together, it'll be so much easier to make and faster. So that's what I'm going to try this week.
One that can work, I've seen it done, I've done it with some quilts, but I've never done it in kites, but I've seen it done on kites, is you cut the large pieces into strips, you sew the strips together, and then so now you cut one direction, so now you've got strips running, left to right. Then you cut them again and you swap them, so now you've got patches. But that only works well with certain patterns.
I think it works well with squares. I was trying to think about whether that would work with equilateral triangles, but what I should do is make a paper one and find out.
It might work with triangles. You just have to, I think if you cut diagonally, you might be able to, but I'm not sure.
I could imagine that being a little bit tricky with kites, specifically because of the desire to have the darker layers on top, So if you're doing this, that's always something that I feel like is a little hard to think about for these, how to do things in a really smart way. It's okay, how do you do that, but make sure the layers stay right? Because with quilting, you don't care what layers on top necessarily, right? But yeah, so it's kind of always interesting.
Do either of you follow those on Kite Life?
Follow what on Kite Life?
Do you check it regularly? You'd see those being built. He goes by Riff Clown on there. He doesn't want to do Facebook.
Oh.
He builds
I know the name.
He builds a lot.
I used to be on those more, but
yeah, he's got a lot of diamonds that he's been showing recently.
Less strip than I need.
Well, I think I need to hop out. I gotta go and make
I
a phone
probably
call
do
and
too.
stuff, and I'm gonna be done for now. So,
all right.
Thank you
Nice
so
chatting with
much
you guys.
thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
still want a brain dump of all your kite flying pieces too.
Yeah, that'll be a different conference.
It would be.
Yeah.
There's been so many questions I'm like, I want to ask, but this is not the right forum.
No worries. All right. Well, I will
All
see
right.
you guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Well,
Cheers.
disconnects too. Have a good time.